Have you ever just stopped and wondered how we make any sense of the world at all? I mean, really? The answer, it turns out, is tied to one of philosophy's most crucial ideas: categories. They're like these invisible scaffolds that shape how we think, how we talk, and even how we understand reality itself. So let's break down how this whole thing works. Just imagine, for a second, seeing the world for the very first time. You'd be hit with this absolute flood of disconnected sounds and sights and smells. It'd be an overwhelming, chaotic mess of raw information. How in the world would you even begin to process all of that? Well, the answer is actually really simple. You'd start classifying. You would just instinctively begin sorting through that chaos, right? Grouping similar things together and creating some kind of order out of all that noise. And this is a process we do unconsciously, like every single second of our lives. We see something, we notice how it's kind of like some other things, and boom, we create a category. Dog, chair, happy, sad. These are all just categories we use to get through the day. So here's what we're going to do. First, we'll look at how this whole process helps us understand the world. Then we'll dive into philosophy's big question about categories and explore the totally opposing ideas from two giants, Aristotle and Immanuel Kant. And then we'll wrap it up by asking, why does any of this really matter anyway? Okay, so first up, how we understand the world. It all comes down to the incredible power of classification. You could say categories are pretty much the essential tools for human thought. And think about it, right? Without categories, you can't explain anything. You can't learn anything. You can't even reason properly. Imagine trying to describe a new kind of fruit to someone without using categories like sweet or round or fruit. It would be absolutely impossible. Categories are the bedrock of all our understanding. So this brings us to philosophy's huge question, the central debate that's been going on for centuries. Are categories a discovery or an invention? No, seriously, think about this for a second. When you call something a tree, are you identifying a natural division that really truly exists out there in the world? Or is tree just a handy label, a mental folder reinvented to keep things organized? This question is the absolute core of the entire debate. And just to be clear, when philosophers talk about a category with a capital C, they mean the highest, most general kinds of things. It's not just a concept in your head, it also gets into language and the very nature of being itself, what philosophers call ontology. So our first guide on this whole adventure is Aristotle. For him, the answer was totally clear. He saw himself as an explorer, observing the world and basically mapping out its built-in structure. He believed categories are real divisions that we discover. And after looking very carefully at the world, and at how we talk about the world, how many of these basic types of being did he find? 10. That's it. He argued that everything that exists, or anything you can say about something that exists, fits into one of these 10 boxes. Okay, let's break this down a bit. Aristotle pointed to one main category that kind of stands on its own: substance. That's the big one, the thing itself. Everything else, all the other 9, like its quantity, its quality, where it is, or what it's doing, those are all called accidents. And this basic difference between a substance and its accidents is the absolute key to his whole system. So substance, which comes from a Greek word that means that which stands under, is the foundational being. It's the thing itself, a specific person, a particular dog. It's the core reality that can exist all by itself. But accidents, on the other hand, well, they can't. The Greek word for them means that which accompanies. They're just the properties of a substance. So, for example, tall or brown can't just float around in the universe on their own. They need a substance, like a person or a dog, to exist in. They totally depend on a substance. Now, Aristotle's view pretty much ruled for 2,000 years. And then along came Immanuel Kant, who just blew the whole thing up. If Aristotle was the explorer mapping reality, Kant was more like the architect who said we build our understanding of reality with our own minds. See, Kant's big move was to pull the categories out of the world and stick them right inside the human mind. He called them a priori, which is just a fancy way of saying they exist before we have any experience. They aren't things we discover, they're the mental software, the operating system that structures all of our experiences to begin with. So Kant came up with his own table of 12 categories, all neatly organized under 4 main headings: quantity, quality, relation, and modality. For him, a concept like cause and effect isn't some law we find out there in nature. It's a rule of relation that's hardwired into our brains. Same goes for something like unity under quantity or possibility under modality. These are the rules we use to make sense of nature. And this comparison just lays it all out so perfectly. For Aristotle, our mind has to conform to the world. We look at reality and we pull the rules from it. For Kant, the world we experience has to conform to our mind. We impose our mind's rules onto all the raw data coming in from our senses. He completely flipped the script. It was a revolution in thought. So we've got these two incredibly powerful, totally opposite views. Aristotle's discovered map versus Kant's invented architecture. But okay, why does any of this old philosophical debate really matter to us today? Well, because categories are nothing less than the building blocks of all knowledge. In the end, it almost doesn't matter if they're discovered or invented. Categories are what make our world make sense. They are the absolute foundation for reasoning, for learning, for just talking to each other. I mean, think about it. Every library, every scientific field, every single folder on your computer, it is all built on the power of categories. They are literally everywhere we organize information. The whole huge debate really just boils down to this one powerful idea. Aristotle puts being, reality itself, at the foundation of our thought. But Kant, he turns that completely on its head and puts thought at the foundation of being, at least the only reality we can ever actually know. Which leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending question. If Kant is right and our own minds really do structure the world we see, is it even possible to see beyond our own programming? Can we ever take off the mental glasses that we were born with and see reality as it truly is? Thanks for watching.